So I've been listening to a Sunday school series on civil government by Dr. Chris Walker, who is pastor of Westminster Presbyterian Church here in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. And I have more content, more analysis, more commentary on Dr. Walker's sessions. You can find that at the Lancaster Patriot Podcast. So you can go to the Lancaster Patriot YouTube page or find the Lancaster Patriot Podcast on your favorite podcast app. Luke Saint also has provided some commentary and analysis on Dr. Walker's Sunday school lesson on theonomy. You can find Luke's commentary at the Think and Reform podcast. That's at Future of Christendom's YouTube page. There's a clip I actually already played in one of my episodes, but I want to play it again because the more I think about what Dr. Walker said here, the crazier it is to me that he would make a statement like this, especially coming from a Reformed Christian from the Westminster tradition. So listen to what Dr. Walker says here about Christianity and power, and just think about what he is saying as you think back over church history and where we are in Christendom and the great advances that Western civilization has experienced as a result of the Christian faith. And listen to what Dr. Walker says here and see if anything catches your ear with this comment.
In fact, I think if you think about the founding of our own country was founded almost entirely by people fleeing Christian governments, Christian strong leaders. And I think I would probably go so far, and this is a discussion that I could have with those of you who know history as well or better than I am, but I think I would go so far as to say that in the history of the world since Christ, Christianity and power have never successfully been mixed with good results, at least not for more than a generation, without damage being done to the church and to those under the lead. There is something worse than a corrupt government stealing and murdering, and that's a corrupt government stealing and murdering in God's name. And that, historically, is what has tended to happen. Now, I would imagine that anyone who would advocate these three positions, a more strong Christian government, would say, well, of course that's not what we want. That's not what we're talking about at all. And I would agree. But our biblical anthropology and our doctrine of sin is important, and the way history has played out every time Christianity has had power is very important.
Now, if you listen to more of Dr. Walker's talks, specifically in this Sunday school series, it seems like he's critiquing the theonomists, the Christian nationalists, and those who would be more akin to the magisterial reformers in one fell swoop. Now, I don't want to be unfair to him. It seems like a lot of what he says leans to radical two-kingdom theology. Now, he might say he rejects that label, but I think it's fair to say he's definitely going after theonomists and Christian nationalists. Now, as a theonomist myself, there is a lot of things I disagree with the Christian nationalists on. There's a lot I agree with, but I've spent a lot of time on different episodes, and so has Luke, trying to drill down and give some really good definitions and distinctions between theonomy and Christian nationalism, especially as it relates to the practical application of justice in the civil realm. But in this case, Dr. Walker, he's definitely going up against theonomists and Christian nationalists. He distinguishes between them, but he kind of lumps them together for his general critique. And he's critiquing here the idea of a Christian government, that you would have someone who holds to the Westminster Confession, and I get that he holds to the American form of the Westminster Confession, but even so, you have someone who's basically saying we shouldn't want a Christian government. I don't know any other way around that based on that quote. He says Christianity and power don't mix. Now, I have my disagreements with Christian nationalists in terms of what the civil government's role and function is. And Dr. Walker would disagree with both of us in terms of what the civil government should be doing. So I don't want to get into all my distinctions and critiques of Christian nationalism. I just want you to think about what Dr. Walker said there, that Christianity and power don't mix well. What does mix well with power then? Is there anything that Dr. Walker would say mixes well with power? Because I will contend that Dr. Walker's statement is not only false, it's exactly the opposite. Not only does Christianity mix well with power, it is the only thing that mixes well with power. Again, Dr. Walker didn't do a great job of defining his terms, but if he were to define Christianity and if he were to define power, I don't see how you could possibly say that Christianity and power don't mix. It is the only religion, the only worldview, the only set of ethics, the only thing that does mix well with power. What are you going to put in its place? Secularism? Atheism? Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, neutrality. There's nothing that mixes well with power except the Christian faith, because Christianity alone gives us the objective standard by which governments must operate. Christianity alone provides the framework for us to even make the argument that a government is acting tyrannically. And unless Dr. Walker wants to say power by definition is bad, and depending on how he defines it, maybe I would agree with him, but he doesn't define it. If power is defined biblically, which I would define it close to authority, it is not a bad thing. And even Dr. Walker would admit that civil government is not a bad thing. So if he is going to admit that civil power, if you will, is not a bad thing, how in the world can he say that Christianity doesn't mix well with this good thing that is given to us by God? The more you think about it, the crazier it is that a statement like this would be made from a Reformed Presbyterian pastor. Christianity and power. Christianity is the only thing that mixes well with power. Look at the last 2,000 years. Look at the rise of Christendom and Christianity. And to make the claim that every time Christianity has mixed with civil power, things have gone wrong, is an insane statement. Now, you can make the claim that there have been Christians in power who have been acting contrary to Christianity and biblical law and have caused problems. Of course, you can say that about any realm, the civil realm, the church realm, the home. But to make the statement that Christianity proper does not mix well with quote unquote power, it is an extremely troubling statement, and especially those that hold to the Westminster Confession should have their ears perk up here when you hear something like this. This sounds like defensive measures against the application of the Lordship of Christ in the civil realm. Christianity and power don't mix well. What, Dr. Walker, would you suggest in the place of the Christian worldview and biblical law when it comes to the civil realm? That is what I would like you to explain. I know you've said there's no neutrality. You said it, I believe, in this very session. So what is it that should mix with power? Is power a bad thing? Is civil authority a bad thing? I actually think you, of all people, would not make that claim, because you, especially during COVID, were more than willing to heed the counsel of the governor of Pennsylvania when he urged you to shut down the church. And you said he's acting for your best interest. And you have elsewhere said the civil government is a good thing. So how then can you say that Christianity and power don't mix? It seems like you're setting civil government on a silver platter for the secularists, instead of standing on the Lordship of Christ and saying, yes, there's been errors in the past, but the only thing that mixes well with any sort of authority is Christianity, because only Christianity can give us the objective standard for how authority and power are to be exercised. So, man, think about that statement. Christianity and power don't mix. It's crazy talk there, respectfully, from Dr. Walker. Again, if you want more content on this, especially this Sunday School series by Dr. Walker and how he interacted with theonomy and Lancasterian theonomy, check out futureofchristendom.org. You'll find all the episodes there. And also, while you're on the website, futureofchristendom.org, sign up for our October conference. It's going to be a great time. I hope to see you there. God bless. So long.